those of us in the media and those in the public who pop by the town's website can download what they call the council package. It's the list of the agenda, the past minutes, and a bunch of the material that will be discussed at the meeting. Yesterday afternoon, when I received the package, I have to say my head started to spin. There were dozens of pages of tables, of numbers, and well, you know what it's like. You've done this yourself a few times.
Well, and I get the same package, so when I looked at that, I was thinking to myself, boy, am I ever glad that Mark's going to have to decipher this.
Well, going into the meeting last night, I was saying to some of those in attendance, I've been to university. I walked away with a piece of paper, but I may need the town staff to help explain a bunch of the stuff that came out for discussion last night. It was a thick meeting, let's say that. I will say that off the top, we had a presentation from Matt DeLorme. He's the executive director with it's an organization called Atlantic Infrastructure Management. It's a federal nonprofit that helps municipalities to understand how to plan out the repair and the payments and the maintenance of their infrastructure at the municipal level. And I have to say, Matt did a very good job of explaining what we have all been talking about for years, and that is the importance of really looking forward and planning how you're going to repair, maintain, and pay for your municipal infrastructure. It was quite a session.
It's interesting you say that because yesterday the mayor called it the report and the study that they were going to reveal last night, arguably the most important conversation on the future of the town.
Indeed. And, I can't say that it's nothing that we haven't talked about before, but it was talked in great detail and perhaps better clarity than a lot of people have been able to gain as they look at a municipal government and municipal infrastructure. It is a terribly complex animal. To try to find the way to properly balance your income sources from property taxes and commercial taxes and any other sources of income and grants, and find a way to deal with infrastructure that in some cases is coming up on 100 years old. And I think that was one of the big takeaways from last night, is that Matt was saying we are now in terms of not just Oxford but all municipalities, are in a position now where we're finally starting for the first time to deal with the very end of life of underground infrastructure that has been in place for so long, and everybody is having to deal with it at the same time. The other kind of point that he made that was very interesting to me, it never occurred to me, and that is decades ago when people wanted potable water service or wanted sewer service and extended to all parts of the communities in which they live, it was easy to get the public buy-in for that kind of capital investment, for that kind of expenditure at the government level, at all levels. But now that we're coming up on a point where you have to pay to fix or pay to replace those assets, it's something that people have already had, they're used to it, and they don't see the great urgent need for the big expenditures that we do have to do now. And, of course, that means taxes.
Well, and there's probably no finer example of the issue, the problem and the concern, than the town of Oxford. Because there has not been a month go by in the last, I've been at this now for 9 years here in this seat, you for a little bit less than that. There's not been a month go by where you weren't talking about a water break here and a sewer problem there. And, Oxford just it seems to be beaten up over the whole issue. I mean, if you could make some money on chicken wire and bubble gum that can be recovered from what they put into the ground, you may be okay.
There's probably a fair bit of chicken wire and bubble gum in the infrastructure under Oxford streets from the days gone by when, in some decades you could say the attitude was just get her done in some ways, to fix the problem when maybe money was scarce. But of course that doesn't work on the long term. You have to really be able to plan out. You have to amortize your expenditures. You have to plan out your debt over the decades to come, and It's every year you have in every municipality you have loans that are coming to the point where they've been paid off, and that frees up some capital and new debts that have to be taken on. All of this underneath the Municipal Governments Act, which means municipalities can't just go to the bank and say, "Hey, I need another couple of $1 million to put a new water line down the main street." It's a complicated process, and it's continually evolving depending on which government's in power and how interested they are in providing support to municipalities.
And fortunately, as you mentioned, some of these are like 100 years old now. And
indeed.
Back in those days, the tools were quite different. Manpower would dig a trench. They'd lay perhaps some lead pipe or cast iron pipe. And the anticipation would be that it would last a very long time. They don't last forever. Now we're called upon to replace them. Now we've got sophisticated, expensive equipment to dig the pipe or the trench. Now it's no longer, lead pipe or cast iron pipe. Now it's something else. Everything is more sophisticated. Everything has different requirements to protect it underground. And all of this just adds to the cost, not the least of which, of course, is the inflation over the 100 years. What they did with $100 100 years ago, and now that's what you spend on postage to send your drawings into the engineer.
And since you mentioned it, Oxford did just last year with their $2 million project to fix Foundry Street, and with the extra money to do some replacement of water lines on River Avenue down in the downtown core. They did replace a main water pipe source that was a lead pipe, even to this day.
Yeah, so. Remarkable. Because we didn't know at the time that running water through a lead pipe was leading to poison, really, to those who consume that water.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Now, let's quickly, because I know we're running a little tight on time today, because you and I do tend to talk. Briefly, Matt DeLorme's presentation last night is a must-read for anybody in town or out of town who's interested in the subject. The package is available on the town's website under the Town Council agendas. If you want to wrap your head around, or try to, what's happening with Oxford's infrastructure, read that report, and then you are informed for what's coming up next. Following Matt, we had another presentation regarding the water rates in Oxford from Jerry Eisner. He's no stranger to Oxford, and Blair Rooney. They both worked in water service for many decades in Nova Scotia, and with Oxford. Jerry Eisner and Oxford have worked quite closely for many years. This was a water rate study that looked at the comparison of water rates among other municipalities, and looked specifically at the situation in Oxford in terms of what Oxford needs to be able to spend to keep the water service running. We have a very good water system here. It's a system that is treated with a large, fairly new reservoir out on Little River, but we also have a reservoir that is at crumbling. It's in desperate need of repair. That's the one down on Pugwash Road. So the presentation from Jerry and Blair last night talked quite a bit about what we're looking at down the road in terms of water rates in order to be able to pay for the work that we have to do. And Oxford residents, I'm sorry to say, you will be seeing your rates rising. It's not going to happen overnight. The town, of course, like all municipalities, has to apply for any rate change to the URB, the Utility and Review Board in Nova Scotia. They will challenge this study presented by the gentleman last night, and some decision will be made as to whether or not the rates that are sought will be taken on. Oxford residents are probably looking at a jump in 2026, 2027 of maybe 30% to their water rates. But even with that increase, it will put Oxford still in the very middle of what quarterly water rates paid by residents in municipalities around Nova Scotia are. So we're not the worst, we're not the best, but we're middling, if we can say that. But it's coming down the pipe, so people do need to be aware that water is going to start costing us a little bit more. Now, on the right side, the reason it's not costing us a lot more to replace that very expensive infrastructure is that we have a very large consumer, one single customer of water in Oxford, and that is the Oxford Frozen Foods plant. So it's balancing out a lot of the negative things that could be coming down the road.
It's interesting. Yesterday, the mayor was talking about the cost being $1.10 a day on average for water. And he threw out the number 10 cents again, saying, he could appreciate it going up 10 cents. Now, he said also it was just off the top of his head. It had nothing to do with prospective plans or what council might agree. But 10 cents and 30%, a far cry different story.
Indeed. But if it helps at all, looking long term, that initial very abrupt jump from about $87 a month currently, or quarterly, $87 quarterly currently, to about $135 quarterly in the first year, if approved by the URB, that will be the big jump. And the following years, 4 or 5 years after that, we're looking at much smaller increases to the rate and declining increases over the years ahead.
And the whole point is this is as a result of really not looking at the reality for a very long time. We've kind of let it slip by, let the pipes deteriorate, let the system deteriorate, the argument being we didn't have the money to fix it. But the fact is, you have to fix it. You have no choice.
Yeah, and again, throughout all of the discussions last night, we come back to the same point. People want to have nice roads to drive on and nice sidewalks to drive on. But the discussion last night, from Matt's presentation particularly, was about how you're going to have to just deal with what they call lower levels of service, which means potholes and rough roads, in the short term in order to save up your capital and be ready for the larger projects. All of that said, Main Street is definitely the top project, the top priority for the next major infrastructure project in Oxford.
Did anybody put a timeline on it?
Nothing is official until the budget comes out in the springtime. And of course, that a lot of people have said it has to be done this year. Now that means the budget gets passed and then the tenders go out. And as we have seen in the number of, even in the short time that I've been covering Oxford Council, and you have more experience with this than I, those tenders in a small town are probably one of the toughest things to get a decent price at, because businesses who are doing the paving and that kind of work are not looking for small items. They need big-ticket items to use their economies of scale to make it profitable for them. And that means municipalities end up, especially the small ones, end up paying through the nose for small jobs.
And the point being reinforced earlier today by the mayor of Cumberland, in fact, who particularly pointed out that they reached their tax rate and completed their budget discussions almost a month ago with a view they could get their tenders out there early, because there's only a handful of companies that can do this work. And if you get your tenders out early, and they're big ones, you get the jobs. And then, as you say, the small towns come along later. They're at the end of the line, bottom of the list, and the prices are generally higher on a per capita dollar basis kind of thing. And yesterday, the county approved tenders of $1.12 million for paving in Spring Hill and Parsboro. And there's a good example. They're going to be doing all of that work before they'll give any consideration to work in Oxford.
And then we have, again, the opposite side of the coin. The municipality of Cumberland County, with its size and its budget, can work on an economy of scale that a small town like Oxford can't as well.
Exactly.
Yeah. A couple of quick things, because, again, we're short on time. I really hate to bring this up. You and I have been here through so much of Oxford's work on trying to find a way to drop the price of our policing service costs. Oh, boy. Well, the town received 2 letters recently from the Attorney General of Nova Scotia, the Office of the Minister, neither of which said it outright, but simply said these were the requirements under the law to advise the municipalities that there are changes a-coming. And there are maybe increases in costs for certain services like biological casework analysis and impacts from the RCMP's own multi-year financing plans. We don't know what's happening, but this is the notice that something is going to be coming down the pipe, and we just need to be ready for it.
Brace yourself.
Yes. The town also last night at the regular council meeting, the town staff presented the accessibility plan, their report card, so to speak, of changes that have happened in the town over the past year or so to make the town more accessible and more barrier-free. It's a very interesting list, and there's an action items list as well for things that the town is hoping to do in the future. Among the top of the list are improvements to sidewalks, improvements to access to the town buildings like the Capitol Theater, that sort of thing. Worth going online and having a look through. And those committees are always looking for people to participate in and help have public input into making the town a better place to live. And the very last thing I want to mention is Saturday night at the Oxford Capitol Theater, we have 3 comics on stage to make you laugh. So it's a fundraiser for the Oxford Community Centre. Tickets are still available, not many, so you can get them at the door, but it's much better to send an email and try to get one ahead of time.